Have you ever thought about people who don't celebrate their birthday at all? No announcements, no plans, sometimes not even a quiet acknowledgement. When asked, they usually say it's just another day. But birthdays are rarely neutral. How someone treats that date often reflects how they experience attention, how safe visibility feels, and how they've learned to relate to their own importance over time. For many people, birthdays symbolize recognition. They are moments when others pause and acknowledge existence. Being celebrated means being noticed. So when someone avoids that moment, it suggests that attention itself may feel complicated. Visibility can bring pressure instead of comfort, as if being seen demands something emotional in return that they are unsure how to give or sustain. Some people learned early that attention was not simple or steady. Praise may have appeared inconsistently, followed by criticism, or tied to expectations that felt heavy. Over time, the mind links recognition with tension. Celebration stops feeling warm and begins to feel evaluative. Being acknowledged feels less like care and more like a moment where performance quietly matters. Others grew up learning to minimize their needs. When emotional space was limited, wanting attention may have felt selfish or inappropriate. That belief often settles into identity without question. Birthdays then feel unnecessary or uncomfortable because celebrating oneself clashes with the internal rule that taking up space should always be kept small and controlled. For some, birthdays trigger reflection rather than joy. Each year marks time passing in a way that feels confronting. It highlights goals delayed, expectations unmet, or versions of life that never arrived. Instead of celebration, the day becomes a reminder of distance between where they are and where they believed they would be by now. There are also people who associate birthdays with disappointment. Forgotten dates, half-hearted gestures, or unmet hopes leave emotional residue. Over time, anticipation fades. Avoidance becomes protection. Not celebrating feels safer than hoping for recognition that may never arrive in the way it is quietly needed. Discomfort with being the center of attention plays a role as well. Birthdays place focus directly on one person. For those who rely on emotional control and restraint, that spotlight can feel exposing. Being praised, watched, or discussed removes control over perception, which can feel deeply unsettling even when intentions are kind. Some individuals struggle more with receiving than giving. They offer care easily but feel uneasy when care flows toward them. Gifts, messages, and focused attention can trigger guilt or imbalance. Celebration magnifies that tension, making avoidance feel like the simplest way to preserve emotional stability. In many cases, birthdays carry meaning that others never see. The date may quietly remind someone of absence, loss, or relationships that changed shape over time. What looks like indifference from the outside is often a deliberate choice to keep emotion contained rather than stirred. At its core, a birthday asks someone to pause and acknowledge their own existence. For some people, that pause feels unfamiliar, uncomfortable, or undeserved. And that raises a deeper question. What happens when a person learns to move through life without ever expecting to be recognized at all? When someone moves through life without expecting recognition, it shapes how they relate to others. They learn to self-validate quietly, to rely on inner measures rather than external acknowledgement. Over time, praise can feel unfamiliar, even disruptive. Celebration becomes something meant for others, not for them, reinforcing the belief that visibility is optional rather than deserved. This pattern often extends beyond birthdays. Achievements may be downplayed, milestones brushed aside, compliments deflected. Attention feels excessive, as if it risks exposing something fragile. The person appears grounded and independent, but beneath that surface is often a learned habit of emotional self-containment, built to avoid disappointment or imbalance. Many of these individuals become observers rather than participants in moments meant to honor them. They show up for others, celebrate friends enthusiastically, and offer warmth outwardly. Yet when the focus turns inward, discomfort rises. Receiving feels harder than giving because it asks them to sit with recognition instead of staying safely invisible. There is also a quiet discipline in not celebrating. It removes unpredictability, no expectations, no emotional performances, no chance of being misunderstood. The day passes like any other, controlled and familiar. What looks like indifference is often a preference for emotional certainty over moments that feel open-ended and exposed. Over time, avoiding celebration can shape identity. "I don't celebrate my birthday" becomes a statement that feels stable and grounded. It signals self-sufficiency and emotional restraint. But stability doesn't always mean resolution. Sometimes it simply means the pattern has gone unchallenged for long enough to feel normal. Despite avoidance, many still notice when the day arrives. There may be a quiet awareness, a brief pause, or a subtle heaviness that lingers beneath routine. Avoiding celebration doesn't remove meaning. It redirects it inward, where it remains unspoken but fully felt. What often goes unseen is that this behavior is rarely about rejecting joy. It is about managing vulnerability, memory, and expectation. Celebration asks a person to accept care without control. For those who learned early to regulate emotion by staying unseen, that request can feel heavier than it appears. Understanding this reframes the behavior entirely. Not celebrating is not a lack of appreciation for life or people. It is an adaptation shaped by experience, a way of staying emotionally balanced in a world where recognition once felt unpredictable or costly. Some people eventually soften this pattern, others carry it quietly for life. Neither path is wrong. But behind the silence of an uncelebrated birthday is often a long history of learning when it was safer to stand back rather than step forward into attention. And perhaps the most important truth is this: when someone doesn't celebrate their birthday, it doesn't mean the day holds no meaning. It often means the meaning runs deeper than celebration can easily hold, shaped by years of learning how to exist without asking to be seen.